Hello, everybody. Here we go. Here's where I left off last time. Got a little bit of action happening. Got some motions set with my auto keys. Got my camera moving around, my objects rotating around. If I go to render my view, um, woo, that is super bright. So there's some things that I can tinker around with, obviously, right here. So here's what I want to do. I'm going to go into my um, environment. And you can see if I render my preview, things have turned out a little bright here. My exposure control is set up by my physical camera. Okay. What I want to do is go to automatic exposure control, and you can see the rendering looks a little bit better. So I'm going to go out of this, and I'm going to check that again right here. F9. See my setup. Everything looks a little bit better. So by placing that camera and getting that ready to render, basically it automatically goes to that camera control. I can go in and tinker around with the camera controls and get into all the exposures and things like that, but that's just going to be boring right now, and that's really not what I'm headed towards. So I'm just going to keep it as automatic exposure control, and just leave it at that. So that's that. That kind of tames down the lighting for my scene. Now, what I can do is start thinking about how am I going to render this scene. So let's get into render setup. You can press F10 on your keyboard, or you can click up here, little teapot with the gear next to it, and this is what pops up. So go through this real quick. Here's what I want. Presets, I'm just not going to select anything. The render, I'm just going to stick with the scanline render. This is kind of the default for 3ds Max. We'll get into other renderings at much later time. The view that I want to render is the physical camera view. The other views, usually it's whatever you have selected here is what it's going to show. So I'm in my camera view, and so it shows here. If you're not in your camera view, then you're going to have to X out of this, change it over to your camera view, and get back into your render setup so it shows up right here. My output, I'm not going to do just a single frame this time. I want it to be an active segment of 0 to 100, because that is the frames that I have animating right now. From 0 is my first, and 100 is my last key. So got it set up as 0 to 100 right there. I'm going to render to view, so I'm not going to change that. The custom output size, I want this to be a HD video, so it renders it out in a better quality. There's a ton of other different camera views that you can go for, but let's just stick with that. It's good quality, shows up good on your phone, shows up good as a video as well. All of this, yes, 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 for these three. I'm not going to really get into the other parts yet, and we'll get into just use advanced lighting. It's basically the lighting that's already set up there. Render output, let's look at this. I'm going to go into files, and once I go in here, I'm going to choose a place where I want it to render to. So I'm just going to, for me, I'm just going to set it here as on my desktop. File name, give it a name. I'll say this is my rotating objects. All right. Save as, nope, I'm not going to do it as all formats. I want to save this as an AVI. Okay. And I'm going to hit save. I'm going to use the DV video encoder and just leave this as it is. Click OK. And let me look. I think we're good. I think that's about it. So last step here is to actually click on render. And so here we go. It's going to start rendering frame by frame, 100 frames, right? Because we did 100 frames in our animation. So I'm going to let this go, and we'll come back to this when it's all done, and we'll be able to check it out. Let me Take a look here. Oops, don't need that showing up. So once this is completely done, it's going to go through 100 frames. There's nothing really you can do as this is happening. So just kind of sit back, watch the magic start to happen. And once it's done, it will stop and you can go to the folder or place where you had saved your file and play it. Make sure everything checks out, everything looks good, everything's rendering through as it should. If you see something happening while it's rendering, you can X out of it and you can cancel the rendering that's happening. So you'll see that this window right here kind of keeps progress of what's happening. So I'm on frame 17. I can cancel it, can pause it, can do whatever I need to do, and that's it. So that's basically how we're just going to render our first animation. And once you're done, check it out, and we'll go on from there. Thanks, guys, and we'll see you next time.